Welcome, I'm Eric with Vast Strength. In this video, I'm going to be doing a little do-it-yourself project, and I thought I'd just share it with y'all. I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I think it's going to work out okay. I've kind of done it preliminarily, but now I'm going to kind of do the final product. So just thought it might be something that I'd share, because I figure if it's something that I'm looking for and not really finding something I'm happy with, that maybe it's the same for you folks out there. So basically what I'm going to do is try to just come up with a handle that I'm able to grasp on each side of a 3-inch upright. So the project's not too bad, about $30 in total cost. You're going to see that we have pipe, so steel pipe, and I essentially have 2 of the 3/4, 1 small 1/2 inch. This is going to be what's going to thread inside the 3-inch upright. I've got 2 small kind of couplings that will essentially transition from the 3/4 to the 1/2 inch pipe. And then I have 2 of these that go from the 3/4 to 3/4. So just a connector essentially. So again, the pipe material here ran me about $15 or so at a local hardware store. So whatever in your neighborhood can do the job. I do also have a couple washers that are about 1 inch in diameter on the inner aspect, just to keep me from scratching up my rack. So that's going to be the kind of the skeleton of the handles. This will be part of the grip, which we'll mess with later. These also will be part of the grip. These are self-adhesive bandages. So probably if you've ever cut yourself and been to the ER, you likely have had one of these on you. These are also very commonly used with horses, and that's where I would recommend if you want to get this. I got this just for the purposes of having a wrap, something that has nice grip to it with the handle. And so if you want to have different colors, you're probably best to go, I mean, you can get these at CVS or Walgreens, your local drugstore, but they're probably going to be just, you know, like tan or brown. So if you want a different color, if you go to any kind of farm supply store or anywhere where they would have something that would, you know, have equipment for people who are interested in horses, they're going to have these, generally going to have them in different colors. So I have these. I bought 2 of these. These were only $2 each, and you can find them online as well. So scissors, knife, I'm going to put to the side, but that'll be for cutting for the handles later. And then loctite. So I've got some loctite here. So there's different types of loctite. So basically what this does is, if you're not familiar with it, you can put it on a thread. Now, typically when you're seeing these used, it's probably with more of a typical nut and bolt type situation. And the red loctite is actually made to be permanent, whereas there's also a product called blue loctite, and I think also a green loctite, but the blue loctite specifically is meant to be kind of undone. And I believe the green loctite's meant to be placed after you've already kind of threaded everything together. So the red loctite, you put it on before you thread everything together, and it's meant to be kind of a permanent solution. And that's largely what I'm wanting to do. So I also have tape here, which I'll explain in a moment, but partway related to the loctite, I don't want to screw that up. And then I have gloves, paper towel, so just in case this gets messy. Basically, this is going to be a fairly simple project. It's not going to be any kind of drilling or crazy hardware. The main part of this is using a Loctite. So the concept of this is to try to screw these 2 pieces together. So they'll be, and I'm going to show you probably a picture of the end product in editing. So you'll probably be looking at this as we're talking. But basically, we're going to be able to thread that together. And so I want essentially all of the threads to be locked, except the one that needs to be unthreaded each time you put it on. So maybe that'll make more sense here in a second, but that's one of the reasons I have the tape here, because I know what I'll do is I'll start talking and we'll start doing this, and then before I know it, I'll put Loctite on everything and I'll never be able to put this thing on. So I'm just trying to prevent myself from problems. So I'm going to put some tape on one of the threads that I know I don't want to have Loctite on. So this is the piece that's gonna go on the inside of the upright or the 3-inch, whether it's, you know, whatever part of your power rack we're talking about. So one of these is gonna be the part that's gonna need to be threaded on and off. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap that in tape just to remind myself not to mess with that. The other thing is I'm not gonna put any Loctite on the ends of what I'm gonna use as the handles. Now, as far as the specifics, I believe these were 8-inch, and I think this was, I wanna say 4.5 or 5 inches. I probably could measure it. Actually, let me do that. Yeah, so 8 inches and 4 inches. So 8 inches and 4 inches. So now that I've prevented myself from, oh, nope, not yet prevented myself from doing something potentially stupid. Now you could put caps on these, which would be add another couple bucks to it, but I decided I didn't want to, or at least if I want to add them later, I can, but right now I'm not going to. So now we got the Loctite. This is pretty simple stuff. You're essentially just gonna put it on the threads, and it takes about 10 minutes to kind of set, and then about 24 hours to completely cure. So I wouldn't probably be loading it until you've got some time between you and putting it on. I'm assuming I'm gonna make a mess because that's probably what's gonna happen. No project ever seems to be clean, so I'll try to keep myself from making too much of a big mess here. So putting it together, I kind of have it, you can set things out so that you know how it's gonna go. And so that's how it's gonna essentially be arranged. I don't know if you can see that okay, but that's essentially what's gonna look like when it gets put together. So we can start just putting the Loctite on the threads and then kind of finalizing this puppy. All right, so I'm gonna put Loctite generously on here. And to be honest, I don't have good advice. Sorry, there's a fly. I don't have good advice as far as to how much to put on, because this is not something that I typically do. And I'm gonna really try to get it on there strong, because again, I'm not looking for this to come off. I have no idea if it's the right amount, so we're gonna assume it's just the perfect amount, because why not? Let's just be positive. It's gonna be the perfect amount. Absolutely 100% the perfect amount. And even if it's not the perfect amount, who is ever gonna know? No one at all, so. And it is getting messy already. So I might be putting too much on, so maybe I need to be less liberal with this. But I shall learn. We'll learn together. So I'm gonna put a little bit more on this one here. So this will be part of the handle. This is gonna go into the rack. Then we're gonna repeat the same thing over here. Now I'm betting if I was smart, I would have probably taken a brush to this and got it really cleaned up well. I did take a paper towel to it earlier, but I don't know, maybe there should have been more preparation involved than what I did, but I'm not looking for perfection here. In fact, I also thought about not even using the Loctite, but the more I thought about it, I thought this might make my life easier. That way there's only one part of all these connections that can spin open that are gonna spin open, is my hope. So, famous last words, but that's the hope. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe. It looks kind of like raspberry jelly, or like a raspberry or strawberry jelly. It's just kind of making me hungry, to be honest. Making me want to go make a peanut butter jelly sandwich, maybe. Now, this one I could actually use a wrench on, and I thought about it, but I decided not to. I think just hand tight is good enough for me with this project. But if you wanted to use a wrench, you could. Guess if you wanted to be working and getting your forearm strength and grip strength, this is a nice little project for that too. All right, so that's got to dry. While we are waiting for that to dry, or to cure a little bit, let's turn our attention to the handles, making the handles here. We got there are a couple different options we have for this. So I ended up just choosing to go with one of these, very cheap. It's just like $1. It's just your typical pool noodle. Another option would be you could use the insulation foam that they have generally in the same area. So the same aisle, you're probably gonna pick these up. If you pick up the pipes, they'll have probably the insulation foam. So if you get the right option there. I actually bought that too. I think I have it there actually. So it's very similar in regards to size. But one thing about the insulation foam is some of it's actually designed to be split open, or it's already split open. And this one, it's not split open, but I don't know if you can see, it'd be very easy for me to do so. And I ended up deciding like, you know what, the pool noodle might be actually better than this because of that. So, I don't know. The pool noodle's probably cheaper. I don't think that was very expensive. It's probably just a couple bucks, but the pool noodle was only $1. So probably your cheapest option. Now, I'm not gonna get real fancy with my measurement here. I'm just gonna kind of eyeball things. I'm not looking to impress anybody. That might be something you hear commonly from me. So I'm not really trying to impress anybody here in my home gym. That's the beauty of a home gym, is I don't have to worry about impressing anybody. And I got a wood block here to cut on. So not bad. Just kind of eyeball this. Yeah, I think that'll work. And we'll do that again. Keep your fingers far away from the blade. You don't want to have to see somebody to fix that. That cut I'm not as happy with. No good. Let's start from the other end. No good. All right, we're gonna try again here. I'm not trying to impress anybody, but I also can't deal with it not looking okay from my own standpoint. So I do have to meet my own minimum standards. So I can't completely ignore a little bit of quality. That one was better. That's a better cut. So we have our two handles. And then we've got our blue wrap here. And I'm gonna essentially just give it a few minutes and let this set up, and then we'll come back and kind of look at the final project. And then in the end, you'll see me use them in what specifically I had in mind for is using these, for instance, when I do maybe a belt squat. I've gotten accustomed now to when I do squats with my Mars Light bar, which is a version of a safety bar, essentially, or at least it's similar to a safety bar. But the nice thing about that is when you squat with it, you don't have to have your hands on the bar because it's in front of you, and it's actually so solid you don't have to have your hands on it at all. So I've gotten used to doing the Hatfield squats where you have the handle that you're able to kind of put your hands on, and I found I really like that. So now when I'm doing when I'm doing a belt squat, I kind of missed having handles there. I do know there's some companies that are producing that. I believe Fringe is working with, forgive me for forgetting that gentleman's name, but I want to say it's Jim something, like a GYM. I can't recall though. So, but anyway, maybe Porter's Gym, I want to say, but I think they're combining to do something with the handle. So, you know, that's going to be probably much nicer, much fancier than what I'm kind of doing here. This is just something I'm home brewing. So anyway, we'll come back here in a few minutes and look at how it's turning out. Welcome back. So I gave it about 15 minutes here. So it's not completely dry, but it's dry enough for us to work with to kind of finish out this project. So basically, I took off that black tape I put on earlier because it's not serving any purpose anymore. So we've got our cut handles from earlier. We're just gonna slip those on. I should note that I did try a couple different things before where I actually tried to use some of the this elastic self-adhesive bandage tape here to try to see if I could make it kind of stick to the bar better or stick to the pipe better. But every time I tried to do that, it just kind of bunched up. So that didn't work for me. So in the end, I'm just gonna put them on. And honestly, I don't think it's gonna be turning all that much. So I don't think it's gonna be a big issue. So other one, same thing. So here's our initial product there. Now, I'm gonna put on again, this elastic, compressive type bandage. Now, I will tell you, so I don't know what it's like with horses, but for human beings, when you use this, you know, if you're using it as a dressing, you know, this stuff can compress, okay? So it has that elastic quality. So the more you pull on it to wrap it on, the tighter it's gonna be. It's gonna wanna constrict, all right? So now, obviously, we're not gonna be on anybody's extremity here, but we're still not probably wanting to have a tourniquet effect on the padding, because if we just squeeze the padding down and it's just constantly kept down, well then you're not gonna have anything to grab on. So it's probably like how after I'm sitting on memory foam and then my lovely petite wife comes and sits on it after me, and it's like there's no padding there because I completely crushed it down before she could sit there. So maybe something similar to that. So we're just gonna wrap it now. And it sticks to itself, in theory. Generally what I recommend is when you're trying to bring it around is to kind of pull it, and then you've got a lot more control over how much pressure you're putting on that bandage. I'm going to try to make that look like a nice clean edge there. So again, now that I've got it, so if I just kept wrapped it as tight as I can, I'm gonna make it really tight. So I'm gonna kind of bring it out that way, and you can see I'm letting it kind of come in. Now I'm gonna wrap it down in a little bit of a coiled fashion. I'm curious how horse people do it. I know how I do it, but I don't know how horse people do it. There's no right or wrong, I'm sure. Well, there probably is, but there's always somebody that's gonna tell you you're wrong. Always. All right, I think we're getting there. All right, so I'm gonna cut this here. Again, it kind of sticks to itself, and that's nice. That's nice. So I like that. All right, same thing. We're gonna repeat the process here. Now, they're both done. So now you might say, well, hey, this isn't gonna last forever, to which I'll reply, yeah, that's okay. It's probably gonna get dirty and sweaty, and the beauty of it is I can just change it. It's pretty easy. So, you know, if I wanna change it, I just wrap it. Maybe I'll decide to do a different color. Yellow is my wife's favorite color, so maybe I'll make them yellow. They did, I think, have yellow at the farm store for this. So, but yeah, decent padding. So now, so here we got our two handles, and then we're gonna have our washers. Now, the only trick is when you're gonna have to take off one of the washers to put this on, but let me show you what we're gonna do with that. So here we go. So we have the one piece with the washer, and that will go in like so. And there you have it. That's my little handle situation here. I'm not gonna make it super tight right now because again, this isn't completely cured. And then the only final touch I'm gonna add is going to be a piece of tape. This is gonna remind myself that this is the one that gets screwed on and off. So the other one is the one that's gonna stay permanently locked, but this is the one that's gonna come on and off. So, because I'll tell you, I'll probably work really hard if I try to get that other one off. I don't think it's gonna happen. So this will just serve as a nice reminder for me. And it adds more blue, which as you can tell, I like blue. Right? It's something I appreciate that aesthetic in my gym. Although I actually enjoy a lot of the colors, but there you go. So there's the reminder that this is gonna be the side that's gonna get screwed off and that this is the side that's gonna have the prong that goes. And I'm not gonna tighten it real tight there, but it's gonna be pretty solid once we do. So that's the project. And next I'll just show you me putting it through its paces while I'm doing the workout with the belt squat. So if you want to see that, stay tuned. Thanks for watching.